Hello and welcome back everyone to this live demo session on Fiori Security, Fiori Elements, Fiori Launchpad and Fiori on Cloud Training. In this live demo session, we are going to discuss about the basics of new Launchpad concept and also building a Fiori element application on our local development tool on VS Code. I will take you through the journey of the overview of this training, what we're going to cover, and how it is different from my last Fiori security course. So let's get started first with the developer persona, understanding who is this course for, and is there any prerequisite for this training. So the very first question is, who is this course for? So this course is designed for SAP Fiori security and basis consultants and Fiori architects. So if you are like Alex Matthew, who is a 48-year-old business basis consultant with rich experience in building security objects like role, authorization objects, securing the applications in SAP, he's having a basic idea of SAP Fiori, basic idea of OData, and basic knowledge on SAP. If that is your skill set, then the first half of this training is going to be relevant for you. So let's talk about the duty of Alex. So in terms of duties, he's supposed to deploy the Fiori apps. He's supposed to manage the application lifecycle, transporting the content from dev to queue to P. He's supposed to provide secure connections to the business users or to the developers in SAP BTP. He should be equipped to know Fiori 3 application access to business user. He should also know the DevOps concept in SAP Fiori on Cloud. What are all we going to cover for Alex Matthew in this training? We will learn how to deploy your app from the tooling, which includes Bash and VS Code, your Fiori application to SAP gateway systems. We will learn Fiori app activation using rapid application development tool and tasks list. We will understand how to create SAP Cloud Connector configuration for your on-premise system. We will talk about the uses of the spaces and pages into Fiori Launchpad, which is a new concept, including user defaults. We will see how can we troubleshoot a Fiori application and also apply custom branding to Fiori apps using Theme Designer in this course for Alex Matthew. Now moving on to the second developer persona, who is a Fiori full stack developer or SAP Fiori enthusiast, Kim Khan, who is a consultant just finished our UI5 and Fiori training, having an experience in building UI5 freestyle applications as of now. The skills required for the second half of this training includes fundamentals of web development, depth understanding of SAP UI5 development, including component.js, router, route match handler, manifest JSON, a skeleton of Fiori apps, JavaScript, controllers, models, binding types, binding modes, fragments, formatters. If you know all of that, then the second half of this training is going to be very relevant for you. So we have it a advanced training designed for 50 hours, which includes all of the latest and greatest topics for a Fiori developer. And also the first half of this training designed for Fiori consultants on basis people to learn the security aspects. So that way this course is designed with a combination of both skill sets. Now you must know also how to work with OData services, with CURD queue operation. If you have that skill, then the second half of this training is very relevant for you. If you don't have that skill, I would strongly encourage to go and attend my UI5 Fiori training first and then jump to the advanced Fiori training, which is this one. So coming to duties, Kim's duties are implementing the best development practices, setting up the required tools in your system or into the cloud to be able to develop efficiently Fiori apps, build variety of Fiori apps, which includes analytic, fact sheet, transactional, freestyle, then also train your core developers, educate them with the best practices involved across Fiori development. What do we learn to meet these duties? In this training, we will learn how to set up VS Code locally in your environment, how to use Business Application Studio end-to-end to manage the lifecycle of a Fiori application, starting design, development, extension, Fiori app extension, and also deployment to SAP Cloud Foundry or SAP on-premise system from the BAS. Then we'll learn Fiori app extensions in this training and see how do we write unit test, integration test using OPA 5 and UI Verify framework. We will learn complete end-to-end Fiori elements, in this training, which has been asked by many of you. When are you starting a Fiori Elements training? This is the training where we will cover the same. We will also see how to use latest Fiori tooling to build and deploy an app to SAP BTP as well as to your ABAP backend system. So a very rich training to make you a full stack SAP Fiori developer or a Fiori architect on that path. So let's talk about the phases of this training. What are we going to cover? This perhaps gives you in a nutshell an idea of what kind of topics are we targeting in this course. So we'll start with phase one, understanding Fiori application installation, understanding the system architecture, using the sum tool, configuring system aliases, executing task lists to run Fiori rapid application deployment, use rapid application deployment task lists to set up your system, a fresh system. If you have, how do you set up, how do you configure standard roles like a administrator role or a user role, what is required. Understand the core concepts of SAP, the standard Fiori application activation and user defaults. In the phase two, we will go deeper into the deployed apps and understand how do we troubleshoot these applications, give authorizations to the user, do a complete security related to Fiori and S4HANA, including theme designer. We will learn how to use Fiori Launchpad, new concepts like spaces, pages, tile designs, KPI tiles. We will talk about Fiori implementation best practices, provide the access to the developer using Cloud Connector for your on-prem data. So that is also covered, Cloud Connector, a very important topic because we're going to do a lot of stuff into the business technology platform related to Fiori, which is Fiori on Cloud. So as an administrator, you're supposed to give access to your business users using Cloud Connector. That is also covered in the training. Then we will understand the Fiori development tooling, using VS Code and Bash. That's a phase three, which is the middle of the course when you start with advanced development for developers like you and me who love coding, who know UI5 Fiori already, and you wanted to become master in UI5 Fiori development with latest tools and technologies. Then we'll start with basics of SAP Business Technology Platform to build applications and deploy them on Cloud Foundry, utilizing the HTML5 repo runtime and understanding Launchpad service in BTP. Deploy these applications using Bash and VS Code to your cloud and on-prem system. That's Fiori on Cloud. Then we will learn how to build end-to-end Fiori application using Fiori elements. We will build list reports, analytic list pages, overview pages, and also KPI-based applications in S4HANA. Then we will understand how to work with Git, CI/CD, continuous innovation or continuous integration and continuous delivery process, OPA 5 one-page acceptance test, QUnit UI verify test. We will also learn how to extend standard Fiori applications, extend OData services, and also expose the custom fields to your custom UIs. All of that end to end we are going to cover in this training. So if you can see the list of broad topics, which includes Fiori Launchpad, Fiori 3, Fiori Security, Fiori on Cloud, Fiori Tooling, Fiori Elements, and Fiori Extension. You can see we will also cover the basics of Node.js as part of this training as well. So of course, there is a lot of Node.js required to learn Fiori on Cloud. And I'm going to cover the basics of Node.js also as part of this training for you to equip on building the modules required to build and package your application to deploy on cloud, all the cloud basics. You can see the icons, Cloud Foundry, microservice-based architecture, the microservices, the backing services in BTP, Git integration, business application studio, the test pyramid to understand the testing, unit test, integration test, how they are done, OPA 5, VS Code, Node.js, all of that will be packaged in a single module of 50 hours. Together with that, let's look at some of the advanced topics which we are going to experience here. So these are some of the highlights as compared to our last training, which happened in 1909 with Anubhav trainings, which you would have attended or seen. There are a lot of advanced stuff. Almost 50% of the topics are absolutely new in this training. So let me brief you about the new topics. So first, develop a smarter way. So Web ID is a dead tool. How do you now develop application locally in your computer? So you will do this through the help of VS Code and local development. So that is what we will see, how to set up VS Code in your local machine and configure it with the help of Node.js to be able to manage the complete life cycle of the app. Then we will learn the cutting edge learning, which includes new topics like UI verify test, PDF generation using Fiori, extending CDS-based Fiori application, integration cards. All these topics are little more advanced things which will give an edge to your learning. Coming to the Fiori on Cloud, we will learn how to build Fiori apps and deploy on Cloud Foundry with Business Technology Platform using Business Application Studio. So all the concepts related to HTML5 repository, working with Fiori Launchpad into the Cloud Foundry will be part of this Fiori on Cloud training. You can build side-by-side extension Fiori apps as part of this training through connecting to your on-prem system. Then we will learn how to use Launchpad Spaces, the latest concept of S/4HANA 2020, which includes how to use Spaces and Pages concept in Fiori Launchpad and security. A small part of it I'll show you also in today's live demo. Then we will talk about Fiori elements in a new avatar. We will learn Fiori guided application tooling and annotation modeler concepts, which is absolutely new stuff, new tooling, new features when it comes to VS Code or Business Application Studio. So as a prerequisite, today I have already set up my system with the required tools and services. But in our coming classes, I'm going to cover how to set up these tools and services also in your machine. So let's talk about what do we see today. So today I'm going to show you a very simple end-to-end scenario of building a Fiori element application, which you can see on the left side. So we'll start the Visual Studio Code tool locally in our computer, in our environment. We are not going to use WebID in this training. WebID is a dead tool. We will use VS Code tool. We will see how to create a Fiori element application on VS Code. We will see how to add annotations to it, and then we will test and deploy this application on on-prem system, and finally configure Fiori Launchpad Spaces and Pages concept to run it on the system. So that is what end-to-end flow we are going to see into the system. So what are we waiting? Let's get started. So first of all, let's talk about some advantages of building Fiori element applications as compared to freestyle apps. So Fiori element application boost the Fiori development efficiency. It increased the developer productivity by taking away most of the business logic into the backend through annotations, and also write less code on the UI. Eventually, you will not write any GS code. It's all metadata driven applications which gets generated out of the box. You get UX consistency. Suppose you build 6 application, 10 application, different product areas, doesn't matter. They all give you consistent look and feel across the board in across the areas. So this will bring down your training cost to your end users because they are pretty used to the end-to-end training. It includes uniform layouts, navigation, search, filtering capabilities. Then you have enterprise readiness, which deliver high quality SAP UI5 application experience to your end user, remains very stable and works out of the box on mobile devices. It also gives you standard enterprise features like accessibility, mobile, and translation support. So these are all the benefits of building apps as compared to freestyle app in Fiori Element. So let's also compare quickly between freestyle versus Fiori Element applications. Freestyle application learning development we've learned in our UI5 training. So quickly just comparing freestyle versus Fiori Elements. So overall approach is about, if you want flexibility, you go with freestyle app. If you want efficiency, then you go with the Fiori Element app. Coming to design requirement, the freestyle applications need design to be approved by architects, but Fiori element application are delivered based on templates. So there are predefined templates. I'll show you in the system in a minute. We will use one of the template called list report to generate the app out of the box. Then you have development knowledge. So in terms of development, you need to have a knowledge on JavaScript and web development in freestyle apps. However, in Fiori element application, you would not need that knowledge. You can just use annotations directly, which is what we will see in the action. Then application ownership and maintenance. So we can see that here the developer team or development team will own all the coding and logic, whereas in Fiori elements, you don't have to do so. All the logic will be managed by annotation. There is very little logic on the UI side actually. The total cost of development and maintenance, the TCO, is very low in Fiori Elements, but in case of Freestyle app, it's way too high. So now you are clear about what is good or bad, and then accordingly you can make a choice which type of application perhaps you would like to build in your programming area. So let's move on now and see our use case. So what we're going to build is a product application. So I have already built an ODS service in the backend for the same, which includes the annotations exposed via CDS views. I'm not going to cover that part today. We will just look at from the perspective of a Fiori developer, how do we develop this application from the latest tooling, deploy it in a full life cycle of making it available to the business user using Fiori security. So let me switch over back to my system. And here is the VS Code tool, as you can see on my screen. Many of you may realize or think that this is like Bash. I'm running Bash on my local machine. Yes, perhaps I would say the Bash is built using VS Code. VS Code is a open source tool provided by Microsoft. SAP have taken the source image of it. Since it's an open source, they modified the code, they made it compatible to SAP multi-cloud development and offered it as a multi-cloud development tool as Bash on the internet. So I've installed the VS Code already. I've also installed all the tooling required to build an application here. We are going to learn all of this in chapter number 21, 22, and 23 in our course, how to set up the tool, how to set up the tooling, how to work with UI5 tooling, how to work with basics of Node.js, and getting it ready for your local development. Remember, WebID is dead. So let's go and see how to create our first application here. I'm going to switch over to View Command Palette and I'll start a Fiori application generator tool here. I choose that and now I'm going to get here bunch of templates, which is what we call Fiori elements. And now I'm going to choose this template called list report application. I've already created a connectivity also to my system. So this topic we will cover in chapter number 20, where I'll show you how do you connect VS Code to your local ABAP environment. Now coming to data source, I will choose here a SAP system. And now let me just choose my system, which I've already maintained here in my local machine, a connection. So in WebID, we used to do connection using destination, but here we do it through the configuration file. I'm going to cover this topic in chapter 20. Now I'll choose a service, SEPM, prod main. This is the OData service which I've already built. And I choose next. And I choose my entity set and say next again. Let's give an application name. I can say Fiori ADV, Fiori Advance, anubhavtrainings.com. That's what we give. And now I'll put application namespace as, let's say, Anubhav. And now we can just give a description to our application, Fiori app development. And now we will just click on finish. Fantastic. So now you can see a application will be created out of the box over here. So it's gonna install all the required components and an application will be generated. So you see how easy it is to build an application without even learning the JavaScript concept or XML views, fragments, formatters, and stuff like that. You can generate an application out of the box. But the challenge comes when you want to extend a standard app, or the challenge comes when you want to extend even this application which is generated. And that's why I encourage those who know UI5 Fiori development already, only they should join and build this part, because without that knowledge, you will always feel incomplete to be able to build these advanced applications. However, those who are coming from security background, GRC background, basis background, they wanted to do Fiori security. The first half of this training is very relevant for you. The second half of the training is more relevant for developers and architects and technical enthusiasts, senior developers who would want to utilize the new tooling and build applications locally. Fantastic. So now I have an application. If I want to run this application on my machine, I have to kind of use a small command. It's all command line based. So I have to go to my terminal here and I have to start a command called UI5 underscore serve. So what is UI5 serve? It comes as part of UI5 tooling. We're going to cover UI5 tooling in our coming classes in chapter number 24, 25, more in details. I'm just going to show you the end-to-end flow, how it works, because this is just a demo session. So let me start the application locally on my computer. And now you can see I'm not using any Orient server like we used to use in WebID before. We directly start the application locally. So if I want to make a change, I can just go ahead and make a change on my web application. For example, I wanted to now use a Fiori 3 latest dark theme. Let me just use that. I save it, switch over back to the browser, and voila, you can see my app is ready. Fantastic. Now, if I go inside, you can see I've got a full-fledged Fiori application ready with editable fields. I can edit the values. Yes, I can change the values. I can do everything what I want. This is a full-fledged Fiori application which is ready out of the box. That's amazing. That's the benefit of using Fiori elements. So we are done with step number one. So we've started our development tool. We have created a new Fiori element application. Now it's time that we go and add annotation. Did you notice when I start the app at the beginning, my application starts, and when I click on go button, it is taking me to a completely new screen. I don't want that to happen. I want my application to open it side by side. To do that, I will switch over back to our Fiori app development tool, which is VS Code here, locally running on my system. Go to view command palette and choose here Fiori guided development to the side. Click on that, and now you can see it opens Fiori guided development tool, and I can choose whatever I want over here. So that's the beauty, that's the benefit you can get here. So let me open this tool, and here you have lots of options. You can add new columns, you can add custom filter to a filter bar, you can add new column to the table, you can add a progress indicator, micro chart. A lot of these tools are there, toggle buttons, export feature, flexible column layout. So I want to enable flexible column layout. I click on this option and it starts the guide, and that gives me a code snippet over here which I can directly apply to my page. So let me click on apply, and now you can see the code has been applied. It has copied the code to my manifest JSON file. I will just save it and I'll switch over back to my application. And now watch out the behavior of the application. So if I run, I click, and voila, now you can see a flexible column layout. Application is not taking me completely to a new screen. Rather, it has opened a flexible column layout here itself. So I can maximize, I can minimize, I can cancel, I can switch over to a different particular product. I can watch a different product altogether. So this is the benefit you get, and it's fully guided development in local machine. You can do it like you do it on Business Application Studio. Fantastic. So what's my next step? After we make a change, we need to now deploy this application to our SAP ABAP system. So I have already. So what we do is we will have an ABAP system, and if I go to my ABAP system SEAT transaction code, I go to my local objects, I would see that I don't have any application with the name called the name which we have given here, something like Z Fiori Dev. So I don't have a Z Fiori Dev right now in my ABAP system. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to use uh, this application and deploy it to my ABAP system. To do so, let me come back again, press Control C to come out of the topic. And here we will write a new command called npm run deploy dash config, which is what is going to start a configuration for us. Enter, and now we will have to define a npm configuration, a configuration for our deployment. Where do you want to deploy this app? I want to deploy an ABAP system. What's the URL of this ABAP system? Is this correct? Yes. What is the client I want to use? 800. What is the username I want to use? I'll put my username. I'll put my password here. I press enter. What is the application name? I'll say Z1 underscore Fiori Dev, enter. What is the package? If I press enter, it's going to take local object. What's the transport request? I'll say blank. What's the deployment description? My advanced Fiori app. It just added a configuration. Let me show you where the configuration is added. It's added here called UI5 deploy. And here you can see all the information is added over here. Fantastic. Now, one important thing to note that it will not add automatically the credentials, because next time when you trigger a deployment, it would need credentials to log into ABAP system. To do that, we need to add a configuration here called credentials, and we need to maintain the user from an environment variable, username, and password from an environment variable, password. Yes, let us go ahead and create an environment variable here. So I have to create an environment variable in my system .env. This is a file, and I would now maintain my username and password in this section here. So I say password. So at this point, I will pause my screen and maintain my username and password, guys, for my ABAP system securely so that I will be able to trigger the deployment in the next step. All right. So I've done that now in an environment variable file. Now to deploy this Fiori application, we will use a command called npm run deploy. And this will now begins the deployment of our Fiori application. So it starts the deployment process now. You can see it's asking me confirmation. Are you okay to deploy this with this name, package, configuration? I say yes. And this begins the deployment to our ABAP system. It was quite fast. And now you can see our application is available at this address. I can control and click to open the web address, and it asks me my username password for ABAP system. And you will see our application will run fine on to the SAP server. So you can see that the application is going to open shortly. It's downloading all the dependencies, the required dependencies out there. So this is how you can start a application and make that application executable on SAP ABAP server. But the important thing is how do we give access to our end users? And that's where we have concept of SAP Fiori Launchpad. So by far we have seen that we have created our app. We have added our content to the application using annotations, and then we deployed our app. As a next step, we will configure a Fiori Launchpad. So I'm going to use now the latest Fiori Launchpad concept, which is called Fiori Launchpad Spaces and Pages. This is relatively a new concept in the world of Launchpad. In the past, we just used to have catalogs, groups, and roles. But now we have concept of spaces, pages, and then these pages will have sections, and further we have tile. So to keep it simple, I've not denoted here sections. So what we will now do is we will add a new tile, first of all, to a catalog, which I've already created before this session to keep it simple for you. Then we will create a page and a space. We will grant the space permission to our business role, and then this business role we will grant to our end user. As a result of that, our application will be accessible on SAP Fiori Launchpad to our business user. I will explain you this more in detail in our unit number 7, 8, 9, and 10, where we will talk about the basics of what is a space, what is a page, and what is a section. What is the benefit of spaces and pages as compared to the old style applications which were based on home pages. We will talk about the concept of how do you create the roles with those spaces added into it. And we will also observe how SAP is now packaging their standard content to the spaces. We will also learn how to assign the required roles to enable space management for the administrators. Also, the space management where users can see these spaces live in action in their Fiori Launchpad. So let us go for now and use an existing content which I've already created before the session. So we will just have to add now a tile and that tile to my space and page. So I've already created a catalog, a space into the system, and I will show you adding our tile for this newly deployed app into the Launchpad with the space. So let us switch over to the system. Before that, I wanted to give here the names. So we will be using this particular catalog. This is my already created space, and this is my role which I've already created. Then I'm going to use this as a semantic object and this as an action to deploy my app. If you are new to Fiori security, don't be so afraid. I will explain you everything from scratch in our coming classes. So to join this training, you can contact us on contact@anubhavtrainings.com for more details, where we will cover these step by step in each and every session more in detail. As it is just a demo session, I wanted to take you through the end-to-end flow. So now it's time that I switch over to my Fiori Launchpad. You all know the transaction code to launch the Launchpad is /n/UI2/FLP. So we go over there and now you see a section called Fiori Launchpad. So I have granted myself the required role to be able to manage these Launchpad spaces and pages. We have also enabled through Rapid Fiori Deployment Toolkit the options to enable these spaces and page management. So now I'll go inside the Launchpad spaces, and you can see I've already created for this demo a space. And before I go into the space and edit the same, I will go to my Launchpad Designer, the last tile, which is going to open in another tab. And here I have already created a catalog. A catalog is a collection of tiles. So let's create a new tile over here. And we're going to name this tile as, let's say, Advanced Fiori Training, anubhavtrainings.com. That is our website. And we will provide here a icon. So let us choose an icon. And now we will give a semantic object an action. So we are going to cover the detail about what is a semantic object and what is an action in our unit number 9, where I will explain you how to create new semantic objects and action in SAP Server. So for now, I will use an existing one, which I've already maintained in the system. Let's put that and click on Save. So once it is saved, it's time that we go back to target mapping and do a mapping information creation for our Fiori app. So let's create a target mapping corresponding to the same semantic object and action which we just added for the tile. And here we will give our app details, my app. And where do we get the URL of application? So we switch over back to our VS Code development tool. And here we can see this is the URL with which the app is accessible. We just take the path prefix, we not take the complete URL, and we paste that over here. Why do we do like this? Because when this app goes to production and quality system, we don't want it to still point to our dev system. That's why we always take the path prefix. We will cover this topic in chapter number 9 more in detail. Then comes is the ID of application, which you can find in the manifest JSON file. So let me copy that. So this is why I mentioned that you need to know basics of UI5 development before getting into the Fiori security or Fiori extension. Let's click on save. And now we have a new tile created over here. So that was my step number 1. Step number 2 is we need to go and create a role. So you can also see our app, which we recently deployed, is now available with the name called ZZ1 Fiori Dev under BSP library inside my local objects. Fantastic. So let's go to a role and we will just use the existing role which I've already created before the session. I will go for edit, and in the menu section, I will just go ahead and add my space. So here is where now we've got a new section called adding a launchpad space. So I've already added the same space over here. You can see the name. I've also added my catalog over here. You can see the name. So this I have done, and then I've granted this to my own user, mob5. Yes, I just wanted to make sure that I will regenerate all the profiles necessary to get the access. And we are good to go and save the role. So that is my step number 2, create a role with the space and the catalog. So catalog is the home of all the tiles. In step number 3, now we go back to the Launchpad. And here we go to this tile called Manage Launchpad Spaces. As I mentioned, a space can have pages, and pages will have sections, and sections will have the tiles. So I've already created a space. In our chapter number 7, I will explain you how do you get started for a fresh space. So you can also see SAP is also delivering now their content through this new concept of spaces. We will also talk about it in chapter 7. So now come inside, let's edit. It asks me first the transport request, assign, and now we can go to the page. And once I go to the page, I only see right now one tile which I created yesterday, and it's time that I will add now my new tile. So let me add again in transport request and just add my newly created tile, Advanced Fiori Training, Anubhav Training. So you can see the technical details of your tile over here. Perhaps if you have two tiles with the same description and subtitle, you can always find out, differentiate or this information from the more info. Okay, let's add this, and the tile has been added. And you can see I've already created a new section. Let me name it as anubhavtrainings.com. We can save the change. It will also get logged into a transport request for sending it to Q&P system. We can do a page preview here, how it's going to look like. So this is how it's going to look like to the business user. At the same time, you can also find a where use list of this space in the role. So you can click on the button to see where all this space is utilized. I'm sure many of you finding it difficult to follow because I'm just covering an overview in the demo session. More details you can see in our detailed training once we start our live training from tomorrow onwards. So now I go back and we have got things in place here. We will just go back again. And it seems that now I can switch over back to my home page because the role is already granted to me. And once I refresh my Launchpad, because now I have that role assigned to me with the space and the catalog, I should be able to see the tile which we have just added to our space. So you will see now in a moment, once it reloads, I will be able to go ahead and access my tile. Yes, so let's see. I go to my space now and voila, you can see our application is displayed to the user as a tile. This is how you give access to your business user. There is a lot which you need to learn to reach to this level. You need to understand in general what's the Fiori security concepts and stuff like that. Make sure there is also a user setting in the system which user will enable the spaces. So we have this setting here checked. Only then the pages and spaces will be visible to the user. This is a very important setting. So we will talk about all these nitties and gritties about how to work with the latest 2020 version of S4 concept for Fiori security and Launchpad. More detail in our advanced Fiori training with Fiori on cloud and the Launchpad. At the same time, you would understand how to use the Launchpad into SAP Business Technology Platform, because there also we have it. Suppose you want to build a side-by-side app on SAP BTP, which is just a Fiori app using the same backend S4 and deploy it there directly in the cloud. You would also be able to do that by the end of this training. Conceptually, it remains the same. So let me take you some of the frequently asked questions regarding this training. So first of all, do I need to have any prior knowledge on Fiori security to join this course? Answer is no. You don't need to have any prior knowledge on Fiori security or Fiori at all. We will cover everything from scratch and basics, how to become a Fiori security consultant. Will you cover also the installation and extension of standard apps in this course? Yes. We will cover both installation, configuration, and extension of standard Fiori apps. How much percent of this course is relevant if I am a security or GRC background consultant? So almost first half of the course is relevant for you, but it's good that you stay with us for the entire training because that's when you will get a complete sound knowledge on entire course. Does this course include UI5 Fiori development as a prerequisite? Answer is yes. Next half of the course. So we have 50 hours to 25 hours, no, but next 25 hours, yes, require extensive knowledge already on Fiori app development because there are a lot of concepts which are reused here in this training. However, I'll try to cover a very basic idea of first course in a nutshell, but still I would recommend if you have a knowledge on UI5 Fiori development for advanced development before this training. Okay, will you cover BTP also in this training? Yes, we will cover BTP deployment and also Fiori on cloud in this training. Whatever you need to know, including tools, deployment process, and services which are there in the BTP. Will you cover also Node.js in this course? Yes, guys, we will cover Node.js in this training because Node.js is the backbone of Fiori tooling and Fiori on cloud. And it is important that we cover that topic. We will cover the basics of Node.js in this course. You know my trainings already. I always start with ground zero. I'll never start at a very high level, which nobody can understand. That's not the way I cover. I will cover everything basics required in Node.js to equip yourself into a Fiori on cloud developer. How many hours this training is of? So this is a 50-hour training, first 25 hours for Fiori security and Fiori installation, configuration, troubleshooting, theme designer, launchpad designer, new concepts of 2020 and stuff. and the next 50-hour advanced development on VS Code and Bash and Fiori on Cloud with a lot of new topics. So what new topics are we covering as compared to previous batch for the same training? So we are now going to cover Fiori on Cloud, Node.js, more detailed, TypeScript, VS Code development, Business Application Studio, extension into Business Application Studio, PDF generation, Fiori Launchpad spaces and pages, PDF generation, UI Verify, which is another integration framework for integration testing, CI/CD pipeline, Launchpad into the cloud. And there are many more tiny topics which are latest in S/4HANA 2020 will be part of this training. Almost 30 to 40% of this course is new. Can we just take half of this training and leave? Yes, it's your choice. You can take half of the training and leave, but we offer it as a bundle, which means you're not going to get any discount if you just choose to take half. You have to take the whole package. Whatever fits, you cover. Whatever not fit, just leave it. I have taken your UI5 course already. Is that okay to start this course? Yes, that's very much okay. Do we cover also the rapid Fiori deployment into this training with S/4HANA 2020? Yes, we will cover how to use task list and rapid Fiori deployment, including the concepts of Launchpad spaces and pages. How do I join this training? Very simple. Just drop us an email on contact@anubhavtrainings.com to subscribe this course. With that, thank you so much once again for being part of this special demo session on Fiori Advanced, come Fiori Cloud, come Fiori Security, come Fiori Extension, come Fiori Launchpad and Spaces training with me, Anubhav. Thank you so much once again. See you in the next class. Have a nice day. Goodbye.